how I became a lawyer at 15. Quick disclaimer, I did not pass nor attempt the California bar exam. I'm just sharing my experiences doing the work that some lawyers would do. I've always been a curious kid, and one day I was just looking online for law internships and this came up. So basically the program was only for kids who committed infractions and misdemeanors like bringing drugs to school or just like school fights, and they would be legally represented by other youths like me. And the person is already guilty. We're just negotiating their punishment and their consequence in front of a real judge and a real jury. But the punishment can never be juvenile detention. Like the whole point was to get kids to stay away from juvenile detention and instead do community-based actions or education measures. And after completing this, after a certain amount of days, their crime would be expunged from the record permanently, so they have a clean slate. This is what the courtroom would look like, by the way. So to become a lawyer, I had to complete certain trainings and pass a mini bar exam that just consisted of like basic legal definitions and concepts. And I shouted a bunch of cases that lawyers did before I actually became one. Eventually, I was ready to take on my first case, and that's just what I did. My first case was HS 11357D, possession of marijuana on school grounds, and I was defense attorney. It was so much fun, and I immediately fell in love with the law and the community it provided. But not gonna lie, it was really hard to balance this and school. I had to drive a long time to get to the court, and then court would start at like 5. Sometimes attorneys had to get there earlier, and it would end at like 9:30 or something. It was crazy. The nights were just very long that I had to go in. But luckily, I had crossroads tutoring to help me through my math and science subjects, so I felt a lot at ease with those, and especially through my junior year hell classes. If you mention my name, Milan Shah, you'll get the first session for free. You can just see if you even like it. See if you even like their tutoring that they provide. I'd recommend it. Why not try to see the possibility that you can ace every STEM class? All right, so I have 2 crazy cases. One was a massive school fight, and the other one was a vehicle theft case. For school fights, I had the entire fight just at the court. Like the entire day was just booked out to litigate the students involved in the fight. Here's one of my notable cases. I blurred out the name, but we'll just call him the defendant. So the defendant essentially was just walking through campus during passing period, and she spotted someone else who believed was talking negatively about her, which she came out as she was. There's some complications with her boyfriend and a bunch of other like random stuff. And things just ended up escalating. The defendant attacked the victim and grabbed her hair, began hitting her. She fell to the ground and she still ended up hitting her. Eventually, the victim had to go to the hospital. Like, it was really that bad. And she had to get stitches and she switched schools. It was a whole different thing. And I had the entire court, like witnesses, the defendant, the victim, everyone, the parents, everyone was at that court for the entire day. And it was just going back and forth between the victim, the defendant, and the witnesses, just constantly litigating and just seeing different perspectives of the whole argument. I thought that was so interesting, and it was definitely a night to remember. The verdict was that the defendant had to do a ton of community service, write a handwritten letter of apology to the victim and their parents, as well as switching schools, but no juvenile. My next crazy case, this is more of a weird case, was a vehicle theft case. For this one, there's just a random 17-year-old who just wanted to drive like a construction vehicle, and the kid actually didn't want to steal it, but his charge, like the charge itself, was vehicle theft because he was still operating it without authority, even though he was just driving it like just for fun. Honestly, I was super surprised that this case didn't go directly to the district attorney's office. Just by the nature of the vehicle theft itself and the fact that the construction vehicle was worth $95,000, I honestly thought that it wouldn't even end up in my hands. What was also funny about the case was that I was 15 at the time and the dude was 17. Like, he's basically becoming a senior, and he's getting cooked by a 15-year-old who's obviously much younger than him. The verdict was that it's to do some community service, restitution towards Sunbelt rentals, write an apology letter, but no juvenile. One thing I learned was that it was really hard for me to see just how young these kids actually were. I mean, here is a 12-year-old smoking weed on school campus. Like, a 12-year-old, are we serious? The sheer drug epidemic is just so scary now. How easily accessible it is to youth and how much it's just being consumed. Also, being defense, I'm able to meet with the defendant an hour before court actually starts. And here I just go through the whole case, go through the police reports and everything else. And it's so crazy because most of them are just completely illiterate. Like, I have 16, 17-year-olds who are just completely illiterate, can't even read, and are just literally like on the verge of graduating high school, and they have no sort of like intelligence whatsoever. And this also leads me to my thoughts about why I actually don't think I'll enjoy public service like DA's work or public defender's work in the future because of zealous advocacy. Basically, this just means that as an attorney, you have the full obligation to represent someone in the fullest way, both for the state and for the person, which on the surface sounds great, and for the most part it is. But when you're defending illiterate 17-year-olds who are about to graduate and arguing that they deserve a lesser sentence, like lessening after-school tutoring or lessening some credits that they have behind, it's just a whole different story. You're essentially arguing for something that you don't believe is right, and you have to do it in the best way that you possibly can. That's what I have to struggle with. But I also learned to manage my time really well, especially through junior year. And luckily, I had crossroads tutoring to help me through in math and science subjects whenever I needed. If you mention my name, Milan Shah, you'll get the first session free. So why not just try it? But I also learned to public speak really well. And I mean, when you're thrown into a real court setting, and someone else's life is basically like on your hands, you learn kind of quickly. To anyone out there who actually cares, the data is strong. Kids are going through these programs knowing their mistake, won't commit it again, and won't be seen as criminals for the rest of their life for a crime they committed when they're just teenage kids. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want, like if you want. Give me more video ideas because I'll just make it happen in due time.